Happy Friday. It's time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I'm Gino Buccola alongside my co-host Alexa Zepp. She is back from Thailand. She's been all over the place, having a blast. Alexa, I've been living vicariously through you, watching your travels on Instagram. Did you have a nice trip?
Oh, it was amazing. It was truly, truly paradise. So I'm so thankful, but I am still glad to be back with everybody.
Ready to rock and roll too, because we have business to handle today. Our focus is going to be out in Florida. We're going to look at the 10th race at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. It's the Sunshine Classic for Florida bred, so we'll go horse by horse through that, and then we'll get into a couple stakes races at Tampa Bay Downs. But a quick mention, I know all over the country, people are dealing with natural disasters out on the West Coast, fires all over the place, middle of the country, it's freezing temperatures. I know some tracks are canceled, so hopefully we can entertain you a little bit. We can lead you in the right direction and help make you some money for some of the folks who are dealing with some really tough conditions out there. Alexa, let's get to Gulfstream Park. Let's get to race number 10. I thought a really challenging edition of the Sunshine Classic for Florida breds. They're going to go 1.16 miles on the dirt in here, and we'll kick things off with the number 1, Power Humor, who's going to try Stakes Company for the first time. And the last 3 horses that he lost to are all in here, so he's going to have to improve and turn the tables on them. And what I found in handicapping this race, there are a lot of horses in here who are not proven or we haven't seen go 1.16 miles. They're all used really horses who have been going shorter. So we're going to kind of have to project with some of these horses if they can get this trip.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very tough race, but Power Humor is making that stakes debut, like you said, for a very sharp barn. The Barboza barn's doing very well, but it hasn't really gotten out of the gate that clearly in a few of those recent starts, and does do his best running from on or near their lead. So he might not have the ability given his lifetime best. Speed figures are just kind of slower than a lot in here.
Sometimes I can get a little crazy with horses that I like, Alexa, but this next one, I'll see if I can talk you into Cozieres a little bit, the 2. So I think if you go through Cozieres' recent form, you'll see horses like Subsanador, Highland Falls,
Yeah.
Tapit Trice, like legitimate grade 1 and grade stakes company. I think the pattern kind of fits. This horse likes Gulfstream, and he's capable of winning going 1.16 miles. He's just not as consistent because he's faced pretty good company. This is kind of like class relief for him. His most recent race, it was only a field of 4, but there wasn't much speed, so he was kind of chasing in there. I like Cozieres a little bit, and it's just such a challenging race, Alexa. I think you can make cases for a lot of horses in here.
You can definitely make a case for him in here at 8-1. I mean, he's had those 4 wins and 9 starts at Gulfstream, so he likes the track. The only time he hasn't really finished in the money was this race last year, where he was 6, beaten by 11.5. But like you said, since then faced much better graded stakes company. So this competition is definitely going to be a more comfortable spot for him.
When you were talking about last year's race, the winner of last year's race is the number 3, Lure Him In, who has one of the higher ceilings in this field. Yeah. Another horse who's been facing open company since that win against Florida breds last year. But we know that if he shows up with one of his better races, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, career best speed figure that day when he won last year. Has not won since in 7 tries, 3 of those being graded stakes in Florida, Texas, and New York, but also cross-entered in an allowance at Tampa Bay, where he is the 6-1 or 6-5 morning line favorite. But, could return and win again.
The 4-horse Secret Chat feels like a major player. I think it's probably the horse to beat. You and I feel like we picked him both second with our selections. Maybe we went for a little more value on top, but it's just really tough to knock his overall body of work. The next test he has to kind of pass is, can he get the 1.16 miles? But he looked like it should be no problem for him.
Yeah, he's improving, who's won both races since entering that Barboza barn, and returns to this Florida bred company where he has 2 wins and 3 starts. So he should sit a nice trip off of the speed and, stretching out past a mile for just the 2nd time in his career.
Another horse who's in really nice form right now is Awesome Train. He's won 2 in a row, and you look at his last 5 races, it's pretty tough to knock that overall form. So he comes into this race sharp, and I think he's another horse who you can absolutely make a case for.
I really like Awesome Train. Like you said, he's won 2 straight, has really strong back-to-back speed figures, and has rattled off 4 career wins since being gelded. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of a new horse here, and he is kind of a machine, making the 12th start from the form cycle, having at least 1 race in each of the last 9 months. So a bit of a powerhouse, and I like a lot.
Yeah, major player in here. Another one. One Sharp Cookie is the 6 who's back in with Florida breds. Had a couple really nice wins in 2024, but those races were back to back on a muddy track and on a sloppy track. So I do wonder if maybe this is a horse who's a little bit better on an off track, and he's been a little bit better going shorter. So kind of has a couple questions that he has to answer for us. But a lot of these horses on class are kind of similar. It's just going to be distance and trip for them.
Yeah, I mean, this horse is probably going to be a part of that early pace equation. He's led in 6 of his 11 sprint races. But before that, he did have 2 wins at Gulfstream where he won as the odds-on favorite. He's hit the board in some of his races going long. So, an interesting player for sure.
The number 7 Shaq Diesel for the Laker fans is a Florida bred stakes winner who actually defeated Big Martini at the end of 2023. If you toss the races where he's had poor starts, everything else is pretty solid. I do think he's another one though who's probably better at like 7 furlongs to a mile, might be a little farther than where he's at his best. What do you think about Shaq Diesel?
He's gotten a little bit of new life in the David Fox barn with 3 wins and 7 total in the money finishes in 9 starts. Generally does come back from the back of the pack, but has been a little bit closer to the pace recently while stretching out. I think, again, this race is very tough. I kind of teetered on whether or not to include Shaq Diesel.
Belts and Brooks is 0 for the last 4 and now steps up. He's another one in here who's going to have to deal with some of the horses who have beat him recently, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Awesome Train, like Secret Chat, like Lightning Tone. So I'm just a little cold on him and prefer a couple others here.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely an ambitiously placed race for him, trying to
Yes.
save his company for just the second time. 4 wins in 2024. So he's been winning, but against quite easier competition. And like you said, has lost to quite a few in here. So we would definitely need to see the best race of his career.
When you and I go back and forth talking about some of the races before the show, one that we kind of upgraded a little bit is Lightning Tones, the 9, who's not been winning as much recently, but a horse who's coming out of a really strong race and is a horse who's in very nice form with the second and then a third most recently. So I think this horse fits really well and could come closing.
I do too. And I also think it's important to note with him, like he was winless in 2024, but has had 3 wins, including stakes wins over the Gulfstream track. So
Yep.
this is kind of like a specialty placement for him. And at 12-1 odds, he's one I went back to and ended up including in my selections.
You have Super Watson, who's 0 for his last 12, but he's going to go first start off the claim for Safi Joseph, who's one of the top trainers down at Gulfstream, and he'll try dirt for the first time. So I'm kind of hemming and hawing a little bit on him, but anytime a top barn like that makes a move like that, you want to kind of take notice.
He's trying dirt for the first time after 41 races. So, I mean, this is really quite the move. But like you said, Safi is great and has strong stats for those moves, 33% winning first off the claim, 27% win rate on the dirt. So interesting career choice to make. And I'm not putting my 401k on him, but I could see a surprise at 20-1 odds with him, creeping up into the money.
Maybe some improvement from that good barn. Speaking of that barn, Safi Joseph Jr. has Holiday Pay as well, who was a little disappointing last time out. He was actually favored over Secret Chat. Had a slow start. Just another one, though, who's done all of his best work going a little shorter, Alexa.
Yeah, his wins have come from being near the lead, and I want the same position tomorrow. He has done well so far in these Florida bred races, though. He's won 2 out of the 4 he's competed in his 2-year-old and 3-year-old year. So, interesting play.
Big Martini rounds out the field. I'm more of like a Jack and Coke captain guy myself, but this horse will try to control the pace from the outside, but parked way out there will really have to be on his A game to kind of clear over and to maybe be able to control this pace.
Yeah, this is longest he's ever tried, so there's no denying his talent, but it's going to be a tough spot for him.
In a very difficult, contentious race, let's move to the selections and see where we end up. So for you, Alexa, who are you going to put on top in here?
I've got the 5 Awesome Train on top over Secret Chat.
Yeah, but the 2 Cozieris on top of Secret Chat. Mentioned others behind Big Martini, and the 9 who we like could offer us some value. So as we get set for our first commercial break, Alexa, let the folks out there know about the offer we have for them.
Yeah, we have a promo for you guys. We're offering a free all access PPs. So just use the code DRFSGPPS or scan that QR code on your screen.
We'll take a quick break and we'll talk Gulfstream Park Pick 5.
Wild Card Weekend kicks off with Pro Football Today at 10 a.m.
And you know SportsGrid will have you covered the entire way.
Join in-game live during the Chargers and Texans matchup at 4 p.m. for in-game betting opportunities. And right after, the Steelers and Ravens continue their historical division rivalry.
Take a look at some in-game betting opportunities in terms of the prop market.
Don't miss a second, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. When he texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Makes playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Second segment this week, we're going to head to Gulfstream Park. We're going to talk about the Pick 5 sequence that includes the Sunshine Classic that we just went through. Now, remember, the Pick 5 is just like a parlay for all of you out there. I know everyone's thinking about NFL playoffs right now with them coming up this weekend. You're probably going to have your 16 parlays trying to parlay all of the super wild card weekend games. So you're going to have the winner of each of these races, but we can pick multiple horses in each race. We just have to spend a little bit more money when we do. So we don't want to end up using 5 or 6 horses in each race, because then we're going to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars and we're most likely not going to win that back. So let's jump on in, Alexa, to race number 7, where we start with, I think we have to start with the 9, and you can talk a little bit about this one because he's the horse to beat in here.
He's the horse to beat in here. And we went skinny in this leg, to try to get some value. We only have 2 horses in here. So the 9, like you said, Camp Hale, 5-2, 2.5-1 morning line odds, has gotten second in both starts from being on the pace as well as closing. Timeform US does give him the best early speed and predicts him to be on the lead. He has 2 bullet workouts coming into the race. And even though he hasn't won, he's defeated some horses who've come back to run really big numbers.
Yeah, he beat a horse named Patch Adams, who came back to win by 10 in their next start. He was right behind a horse named Guns Loaded, who came back to win the Mucho Macho Man Stakes last week. We'll throw the 6 in Can't Stop Munnings. Look who he just lost to, Patch Adams. So we were just talking about him. Can't Stop Munnings also lost to another really nice horse in the debut named Built. So Can't Stop Munnings could maybe get us a little bit of value in here, but no doubt the one they'll all have to beat is Camp Hale. So we'll use the 6 and the 9, trying to make it through race number 7. If we have one of the winners there, then we'll be alive heading into race number 8. This one is a difficult one, Alexa. It's a group of $10,000 claimers, so some lower level horses, and they're going to be going on the all-weather synthetic surface, which we have dirt, turf, and synthetic surfaces. Some horses are unique and they like this surface a little bit better, but it's a tricky race. I thought there's a lot of ways we can go in here. You're going to start out talking about the 1 and the 12, a couple that we have.
Yeah, we spread in here. We're using 4 horses. The 1, Amunet, at 10-1 odds. I wanted to include this long shot because she has a pattern of winning after a long layoff. She's had 3 career wins, and each one has been coming off the layoff. And she's coming off a 2.5-month layoff here. She is a closer, so don't expect to see her until kind of late on the scene. We'll also use the number 12, Smart Spending, at 4-1 odds. 4-1 odds for the Barboza Barn, who's quite hot right now with a 24% win rate. And she's hit the board in every race but 2 in 2024 and had consistently improving speed figures. She's also a closer who likes to sit off the pace and come at the end.
Couple others that we'll have on the ticket. The number 8, Grandma's Pudding. She should be close up throughout. All 3 of the wins have been on synthetic. I'll take some chocolate, please. And then the 9, Bismaline. If you can eliminate that last race, all of the form before that is really, really good. This horse just got cut off last time out, was actually favored in a similar type race. So I think you can be a little bit forgiving and make an excuse for that effort. We're going to end up going 4 deep. So we'll use the 1, the 8, the 9, and the 12. We need one of those horses to win. Just one of them. The other horses, doesn't really matter where they finish at all. As long as one of our horses wins, we move along to the next one, which is race number 9. So we go on the turf here, Alexa, in race number 9. We're going to just use 2 horses in this one as well. The horse to beat you can start with, that's definitely the number 6, right? Dream On.
Yeah, number 6, Dream On, morning line favorite.
Dream On! Sorry, I was waiting for that one.
Keep it going. Now, this is a very talented colt who's been running against tougher Grade 1 competition. Last start was in the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where he led the majority of the race before getting passed for 5th place, but only by 2 1/4 lengths. He's a favorite, like I said, and I really just see him having more ability than the rest in here. Should be able to get that leading position he wants with just a little bit of pace pressure, probably from the 2, who I think will fade.
Yeah, I'm big on film. You know, think about it in this kind of perspective. If you're watching a football game, after the game, you go back and rewatch the game, you'll probably find things that aren't in the stats, or maybe things that were missed, or things where you could feel like, if that would have gone a little bit differently, the result of that game might have changed. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for when I'm watching replays on horses. And the number 3, City of Oscars, just had no chance in his last race. Alexa got completely stopped. And I think it's one of those races where you just eliminate it. You don't take a whole lot out of it because we can't really gauge what happened when a horse doesn't get a chance to run. If you're playing him off of his races before that, they were very good. And you and I both like this horse as a little bit of a price. So we're going to include the 3, City of Oscars, along with that very likely heavy favorite, Dream On, as we move to the Sunshine Classic. I'm not in quite as good a form right now. I got to get some of my musical talents like warmed back up. Let's get to the Sunshine Classic. Remind everybody, we went through this race with the horse by horse preview, but we are going to use 4 horses in here to try to make it through.
Yeah, this is a tough race, like we said in the first segment. So we're using 4, the number 2, Cosieres at 8-1 odds, back to Gulfstream and at a comfortable level of competition after competing against much tougher, who's won 4 out of 9 starts at Gulfstream and just has a habit of hitting the board. The number 4, Secret Chat at 3-1, probably the one to beat, coming off of a win, who has won 2 out of 3 tries against this Florida bred competition. The 5, Awesome Train at 10-1 odds. This is my top pick, coming off of 2 straight wins with very strong speed figures, looks to be in peak form. And then the 9, Lightning Tones at 12-1 odds, another price, and a closer in the race with a lot of pace in here, so has some pace advantage, who has a stakes win at Gulfstream already under his belt.
So hopefully we've picked the winners of the 4 races leading us into race number 11. If that's the case, we'll get to a mile and a 16th race. It's a $20,000 claiming level. And we're going to have 3 possible horses here to close out our ticket. Alexa, why don't you start us out with the speed horse to the outside?
Yeah, if you guys look at the Time from US graphic on the screen, you'll see that has like an icicle in the top right that says slow pace, which favors front runners. So we like the 11, Rough Draft, who should be favored as the lone speed, has had a fair amount of changing hands over the last few months, but now is back with Fernando Abreu, trained him consistently for all of 2024. Consistent and improving horse.
The 3, Nantasket Beach, probably the horse to beat, coming off a really consistent stretch of 6 races. And then what we'll do, we have the speed to the outside. We'll give ourselves the shot with the 2, Media Sensation, who's a closer. Let's see that ticket, Producer Rich, Producer Mike. What does it look like? I think we put together a $96 ticket. No singles on the sequence. Remember, we just need the winner of one of those horses in each race. If we do, we'll be alive, and hopefully we can cash that ticket. And we'll head right on out to Tampa Bay Downs for our final segment when we return.
two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Makes playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. Wild Card Weekend kicks off with Pro Football today at 10 a.m.
And you know SportsGrid will have you covered the entire way.
Join in-game live during the Chargers and Texans matchup at 4 p.m. for in-game betting opportunities. And right after, the Steelers and Ravens continue their historical division rivalry.
Take a look at some in-game betting opportunities in terms of the prop market.
Don't miss a second, only on SportsGrid.
Segment this week, we're going to head on over to Tampa Bay Downs. Alexa, we haven't been out to Tampa Bay Downs to talk about some of their races quite yet. And what is interesting about these two this weekend, we're going to first start with the Pasco and then the Gasparilla. Their races 4 and 5 on Saturday, January the 11th. They're not Kentucky Derby or Kentucky Oaks points races, but they're races for 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs, and they're early on in the year. A lot of connections will try to use this race as kind of like a tester or a stepping stone before stretching their horses out. Like if we look at this field, Owen Almighty, who's the heavy favorite, he's a horse who probably has Kentucky Derby aspirations. Even the 4 rookie card or the 5 Naughty Rascal, they feel like the 3 in here that could be maybe Derby horses down the line. How did you see this race kind of shaping up, and who did you like?
Yeah, my favorite in here was that 5 Naughty Rascal, who's improved since breaking his maiden early in the 2-year-old season against Florida Bred Company. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term breaking a maiden, being a maiden just means you're a loser. You haven't won yet in horse racing. So, he's won 2 of the 4 stakes he's competed in since, both over dirt and turf courses. Closed late in his Tampa Bay Downs debut last out and just couldn't catch the odds-on favorite Donut God, but did show some good turn of foot and I think could be a contender in here with a closing kick.
What's nice about Naughty Rascal, he's like the most experienced in the field. He's got a really nice body of work. He's won stakes races on the turf and on the dirt. He's won going a mile on the turf, so that's farther than this race. So fitness shouldn't really be a problem for him, and he's kind of like the now horse, where a horse like Owen Almighty might need this race to get to some of his better races and kind of shake off some of the rust. You see a horse like Naughty Rascal, he's just really solid right now, and every time I see him, he reminds me of Tommy Boy. He's naughty, my naughty little pet. He's naughty. You got to be careful with that Naughty Rascal there. So a look at the Pasco, where you have a couple of very talented horses in rookie card, Naughty Rascal, and then to the outside, the heavy favorite, Owen Almighty. So those were the boys in the Pasco. In race number 5, we're going to take a look at the fillies, the 3-year-old fillies. They will be sprinting 7 furlongs in the Gasparilla. And in this one, Alexa, I think kind of the similar strength to the outside of the field. It looks like Mrs. Worldwide, very logical. Winning You're In, very logical. These are 2 horses, I think, kind of to start with as some of the major players in here. Who did you like?
Yeah, I like the 7 as my top selection when you're in. Won 3 races as a 2-year-old, including the Sharp Susan Stakes at Gulfstream. Exits the Florida Sire Stakes, winning the Susan's Girl Stakes 2 back before fading kind of badly in the My Dear Girl Stakes in November. But, does her best running on or near the lead, and I think could battle Miss Worldwide for early positioning. Miguel Vasquez keeps the mount and has been aboard all lifetime starts so far. So a lot of comfortable position for her in here.
And when you're building fitness, when you're training for any type of race, when you're training for any type of sport, the farther you go, you're obviously going to build up your stamina. And Winning You're In raced a mile and a 16th last time out and just found that too far. So a lot of the times with horses like this, it's not an exact science, right, Alexa? It's some trial and error. You try something out. Oh, you know what? That didn't really work out. Now let's go back to what worked out well. So a lot of times I love horses like this that get to go a little bit farther and then cut back, because you just feel like they're going to have a little more fitness cutting back. They have raced a little bit farther, so there might be a little more bottom when you turn back. The 6 and 7, super logical players. And maybe if you're looking for a price horse in here, you could look to a horse like Lynn's Milky Way, who's pretty quick and might be able to kind of steal this race. You can see they have the 3 Lynn's Milky Way out in front on the pace projector ahead of some of the others. So maybe that's a way we can get a little bit of value in here, Alexa. But a tricky race, and it feels like the major players to the outside.
Yeah, definitely. The 6 and 7 are going to be major contenders in here.
So when you're handicapping these 2 races, what you want to do is not only look at the races individually, but also kind of put some of these horses, make a mental note for down the line. Are these horses who you like, who you think might be able to run a little bit farther, be Kentucky Derby or Kentucky Oaks type horses? That's really going to be what our kind of journey is on this show really for the next few months, Alexa, because every week or every couple of weeks, we're going to go to a different track where they'll have some Kentucky Derby or Kentucky Oaks prep races. I think for next week, we're going to head out to Fairgrounds because it's the Lecomte and a lot of their undercard races. So it was fun to get a look at Tampa Bay Downs, and now we'll kind of get to bounce around over the next few months.
Yeah, it's exciting, that time of year. And then when you go into the Derby, you feel like you have a really good line on it because you've watched these horses for months and know who your favorites are.
We've seen them grow, we've seen them develop, and hopefully we can help you grow and develop your handicapping skills with the daily racing form, past performances. You can use that coupon code, or you can just scan right there and it'll take you right to them. We'll be back again next week to get you set up for everything going on in the world of horse racing.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.